Bo to je den ba, tam che chin ba de ba bo su na yo de jam de je de je lo da lo, da ba da ja da je ge ge so le ra. Je dong 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 jo ba, je jo ju la da lo, ro le la yo do lo ba da la ra de ge jen ga da ba yo de. Gen du la yo som za ro, do je nya je da le na lo da ba me ga je ga mo. 파모르 바자완 동바 가주르 마나마소 안데 오면 추진 저보랑네 아테서 사제 그냥 고원이 라셈 조건고소 도제베 어사베 라미 잡라소 안데 에모 가다 주냐 넘바다베 롱서도 제제지 도르고 르군요도 전제라마조 저좀도제 잡라소 살라자와 바제죠 와다 도몽 종사들 들진 상하삼에 냠네 타송네 동님매매 린제로 바조 있어서 동화전다 추진치 냐소매 봉셔 지라서 샘진동다 여도 다치나 담바 추진능도 저도 네, 가장 타지 토도 제바송 동진이 바데 에 무슨 말이 나들이노 데레 이미 고타 계속 제들 축구전에 이 만수 방용 상에서 고타 제네 대주죠 내게 상서 이바이베나스 대달 죽어 라네지 이시 진바 철맘용고 상제서 철맘용고 상제지네 대양 하장 송크시 보레지 샘들직 니본데 대화를 짓고 있는 거 가르쳐 줄 거래잖아. 무슨 코와 토마미 번에 다 받을 내다 유문배 초나 내요래 내 이거네요 다른 생군내로 뭐도배 같아 싸우고 통구요래 싸워니 맞아봐 호 철반은 거 진짜 진짜고 콘 싸워는 철이요 말해도 맞춰봐 이제 맞아봐 싸우고 통구대 에 대들 신경 붙여주 되래 손대는 철만 용서 사지에서 된 통화를 드니까 다 사기 무슨 인지 로사께 좋고요래 로타께네 드리대 윤종마다 다대 되는 거 신이 드리 윤준이 디 윤종데 되게 버려 이제 선생 이바인
So yesterday, we came to the end of the second word, which is to decide upon one thing and one thing only. And so it says at the end, make a decision then that this naked wisdom of Dharmakaya, naturally present, is the awakened state, which has never known delusion, and abide by its flow. This is the second secret and vital word. So we need to, this is a very important point, to come to a firm decision and to really, that is, realize what is for what is and have a confidence in this. And so realizing that this Buddha nature has been present within ourselves from beginningless time, since we've been circling in the samsara, then in this cycle of suffering without beginning, then the Buddha nature has always been present within us. And this Buddha nature present within us has just been obscured by the temporary obscurations. But those obscurations have never touched it, never altered it in any way whatsoever. It has always been present with us, so that when we look at it, we can see it. It is there, untouched, unstained by anything, by any of the obscuration. And so we need to really come to a firm decision on this. That means to really realize this and to eliminate, and not to have any doubt about it. And so, and it says so, and abide by its flow. So that is to really to maintain that confidence. This is very important. So that's the second word.
Tela Ye Dorje Musons, Ye Dorje Muson, the same they look te Musambate Dorje Muson, same they look Musamba. Dorje Nichu Tanje, Tagum Jitu the Yona, then Torto the Jam Magus, Jam Maguba Mato, Yin Tamjera Guson, then Torto the Jam Guson. Then Torto the Jam Gusan Magu, so Rangarang the Tago your head. Kare Tago, Ye Dorje sing with the look dere. The thing not more you, but Genie. Kare Chodang Charung Shoaji Rangi kept you back over Shasona. Tata going to choose the song red. Oh, they took it down, make up time to the Tigan a day, your mother, like a yin can't check over Mareso.
So it says, if we have recognized the primordial ground as the basis of liberation, and that which is to be liberated, that is all the dualistic phenomena, if they are brought together in the unity of view and meditation, there is no need for confidence directly in the liberation of rising thoughts. In all other cases, it is necessary. So confidence directly in the liberation of rising thoughts is the third word. And so it says that if we have recognized the primordial ground as the basis of liberation, so the ground of liberation, that is the nature of mind, that is recognizing the nature of mind. So when we recognize the nature of mind, and then it says so, and that which is to be liberated, so there is the ground, the basis for the liberation, the nature of mind, and that which is to be liberated, all dualistic phenomena. So when they are brought together in the unity of view and meditation, then there is no need for more. That is, we need to check for ourselves what is our case. If then having been introduced to this ground of liberation, this basis for liberation, that is the nature of mind, then if all thoughts that arise, everything is liberated within that space of the nature of mind, that is, if the view and the meditation, the conduct all come together, then there is no need for more. If whatever arises, it is liberated. If in whatever we do, we maintain the view, so that the view, the meditation, and action are always together, then there's no need for further practice. You got it.
Tana teda tse troluk ke deng mi na kun ye to me so semne nga su gom zam kam gom ko sa le ma da shen troluk ke deng yu mi ta da gong xi ba ge de pe gom jo po ko le na to da yu mo ba ji de yang de gom nyam ling ge kam de da go le o ni mo ba na to ka sha gom jo jo nam sa ni ba me pe na mi ji lo ko to lang na la zang ko to lang song ji ni gom jo ja yang ji ma me tin tong na ko to za ni me wa ni cha na ni ton to le Did Dorson to look then you are it. They mean, oh, Tata meter Koto, Lang, Koto, Yakap, Data, Japnasang Mason, Yanker meted on Yanker Koto on Litu Madora. Bena. Teason, oh, my bottom of the tongue come shocked out with the old son. It's gone to Zubike, or it, to look then you meet it. Told my daughter it out.
So the text says, now, at such times as these, if there is not the confidence of the method of liberation, and your meditation is merely relaxing in the stillness of mind, you will only get sidetracked into the samadhi of the gods. So there is this distinction between when there is when the method of liberation is applied, or there is this confidence of the method of liberation, and the absence of the confidence of the method of liberation. You have that kind of inner confidence, that kind of stability in the method of liberation. And so we need to check again and again to see whether we have that, we are able to liberate thoughts when they arise. And so we don't necessarily have that kind of capacity from the beginning, but this is something that we develop through the meditation. And we need to to check that, and we need to have a kind of, for example, if someone gets angry, if we get angry at someone, then immediately we recognize, oh, I've been angry, and meditate or practice so that so as to dissolve that anger. So the next time when we see that person again, then there won't be any anger that would come. So that's a sign that we have that kind of confidence of the method of liberation, that we are able to liberate those thoughts. But otherwise, if we see that person, we get angry and don't do anything about it. Next time we see that person, then anger will come again. And so this is a sign that we don't have that kind of confidence or stability in the method of liberation. And in that case, we just need to think, oh, okay, well, I don't have enough stability in the view. I'm not able to, or in this method of liberation, and so therefore I need to make more effort to practice. Have more diligence or discipline discipline myself to practice more. Have more diligence in the meditative practice, so that we be able then to liberate all those thoughts and have this confidence of the method of liberation.
Sen arsu gongzang kangkom go salim mada xingsong. Nde necha zo jine necha dewa chibo yore. Necha di dewa de zo se tere xingsong na. Dini tangcha dang sarcha zo tungo yore. Tangcha dang sorcho sarcha di zo tungo yore. Bene di xine dang hlangtong men da na. Xine gongju dong jiga hlangtong ge sim sarwo de nipa dong na. Ni 신의 공고요래 상통 sarcha지 마톱나 신의 직북해 네가 다 인디 감고마송 라열라서 뭐지 좀이절라서 봤더니 이게 네가 그 고사로 차로요래 뒤중 거래되는 뒤 차당의 찌면터 뉴지제 레규 매초 성거리 중대답을 연구를 해. 자당가 또 빠지나? 역부터 빠지. 사차 쪽을 맞추고 중을 했어.
心内的拉通，心内拉通的养家这个什么？心内的拉通养家送的。
哦，你心内的身体不对的，我们这边身内容的对话全部有的，这个，这对话对做哦，但这种上，这杀价的就是做马东了，这心内的先把有的，别的心内我们这边这当不他吧，哦，他看起来上面，这里边我们家就没得这里。要当过当嘛，他把他那种个，这个杀价呢，杀价做人呢，哦，他的先把这我说哦，我们怎么让做那么送呢？没办法，先把没吧，用过的。现在你家做人呢，相同的杀价做人，那做相同的大啊，是他因为呢，相同的做的做结果的，相同做人呢，你家当。사차 니는 사차 조지 그래서
when practicing, so in the meditation there is those two aspects of the aspect of remaining and the aspect of clarity. The aspect of remaining is like when we're so resting in the state of meditation, and it's a quite comfortable way. We're quite it's the meditation of shamatha, and there is a sort of bliss associated with that, where we're really able to rest in the meditation, in that stillness, and there is but then there's a subtle grasping that creeps in, grasping at this, at this kind of stillness, at this ability to remain, this kind of bliss that is experienced there. So therefore, it is important that to bring forth the clarity aspect. And so of the two, the remaining aspect and the clarity aspect should be more important. We should put more emphasis on the clarity aspect. The clarity aspect corresponding to the vipassana. So the remaining aspect of the practice is more the shamatha, and the clarity aspect, the vipassana. But then without the vipassana, without the clarity aspect, there is a danger for grasping at our blissful experience of meditation, to come in grasping at this stillness or remaining aspect of the practice. And so that is why in the practice it is advised to bring forth more the vipassana aspect, the clarity aspect of the practice, because in that when there is that kind of clarity, then there won't be any grasping coming in. And so that is why, so here it says that if your meditation is merely relaxing in the stillness of mind, so that there's this remaining aspect of the shamatha aspect of the practice, then you will only get sidetracked into the samadhi of the gods. And so that's what it means, just that kind of attached to that kind of blissful experience. So together with the shamatha, it is very important to have also to bring forth the clarity aspect, to really have and to put more emphasis on the clarity aspect rather than the remaining aspect in our practice, because such meditation will not be able to overcome attachment and anger. So there will still be a grasping, and this kind of meditation, which is more about relaxing in the stillness of mind, then doesn't have the capacity to liberate attachment and anger, to destroy attachment and anger.
언제가 나도 들이 곰 사차면은 곰 잡대요 저들이 되나 남도 충충이 좋아하는 맞춰봐 남도 충충이 좋아해 제 체리도 들이 이만 남도 치워들 나 카영도 다 남도 제인하고 남도 충충하고 요 말이 들 언제지 이 뉴질래 좀 남도 언제서 남도 충충 되래서
It would not be able to put, so this kind of meditation, which is merely relaxing in the stillness of mind, will not be able to overcome attachment or anger, and it will not be able to put a stop to the flow of karmic formations. And so the karmic formations are the undercurrent thoughts and such like. So the undercurrent thoughts are these very subtle thoughts that are in the mind, those very subtle namtok thoughts that arise in the mind. And if the clarity aspect is not developed enough, is not cultivated enough, is not present enough, then we won't be aware of those more subtle thoughts, those which are called the undercurrent thoughts. We won't be able to be aware of them. And it is only when they kind of gain some momentum and become bigger, when you have a lot of those smaller thoughts, then they become something which is more obvious. And at that time we think, oh, no, I have a thought. So you just, if you just focus more on the stillness, resting in that kind of remaining aspect of the shamatha, then you won't be able to be aware of those smaller thoughts. And it is only when they are kind of more important, bigger kind of namtok or thoughts, then you'll be aware of them.
집자님의 줄에 집에서经托的同志经托的把这他们把西把达他就罗登么托北着落的那가르치게나대 강리 집자님의 줄에 집에서 김어데 강야면나 나가 곰 잡고 열에 지는데 나가 곰 빅사래 사람들이 나 강야면 없지 근데经托的他们把되나 너무 잡고 등이 잡고 양을 내가 속지 못해 제고가서 드니다리 김별랑사 그걸 랑속도 쇼는 거 그걸 랑속 쇼는데 그 담을 받는 게 등이 용고요 그래 저랬더니 대 강리 대 사차 쪽을 맞도 뭐 쭈를 해서
As the saying goes, with a full stomach and warmed by the sun, you seem a practitioner. But when adversity strikes, you are just an ordinary person. So that is when we're practicing, all the circumstances are good and everything is well, then we can really practice, rest in meditation and so on. But as soon as we start to have some problem, that is adversity, like strong destructive emotions, strong emotions, risings, coming, then or experience of suffering, then or strong joy or bliss, happiness. Then in those cases, then we lose the practice, we lose the view, and we just experience suffering, for example, as just an ordinary person. And so that is a sign that we haven't put more emphasis on the clarity aspect, and the remaining aspect was more important in our practice than the clarity aspect of the vipassana.
대양 단들어서 오송을 대양 너버열 척바자고 지왕 너버열 해당자고 지왕 tun진당 조바 롱주소 가와다 tun비지 나차 동에서 초와 강송아 대체 그거 짤송아인 배송 냠지 이거 졸록 조지 신문도 봐 같이했어 뭐 속치 못 잡아가면 다 공 관리도 다 제대하고 그래야 돼. 강에 가세잖아. 강지 속도 있잖아. 강에서 공그 파도 틈는더니 공약고 그래야지. 강에 공도 철랑들이 가버려야지.
So the text says it quite clearly. It says, what is more, when a burning attachment is aroused towards some object of desire, or violent anger towards an object of aversion, when you feel joy about favorable circumstances, material possessions and the like, or you are afflicted by sorrow on account of unfavorable circumstances and things like illness, no matter what happens, at that moment the power of your Rigpa is aroused, and so it is vital to recognize the wisdom that is the ground for liberation. So when strong emotions arise, when strong destructive emotions arise, then if you're able to maintain the view of the practice, then this is a sign that that is a way to evaluate, if you want, your practice. So likewise, when experiences of happiness, joy, or suffering arise, and strong experiences like this arise, then if you're able to maintain the view and not be carried away by those experiences, so that assigns that there's a certain stability in your practice. But this is, of course, not so easy.
Garab Dorje Chanchong Docha Lamder Seba. Ringi Yinda maybe Hedang Lamder Seba, to top lava be Tomok Lamder Seba. Sebetimo Jimo Lamder Seba, that is, that is Chadang Gadok dance. Nina Me Shedang Jina Ringi Yina Meba, Mijila Lapa, Gamba Chitang Meba, Mijina. Tell me no back at it and call it Shedang and the Chia on her. Three Shedang Katil on the day. Three Shedang bombed up and don't I Shedang the town for me band over. Oh, Ringi in army, Shedang under Sebas. Gumo Dorje Chanton and Docha under Sebas. Docha will come down, Bena. The mean so much again. 딱번 노차를 놓고 노차자는 매반도 정말 차파티 매바용 거래. 매동 담지게. 매띠목 키보지는 토톨 나와 봐. 딱번 이콩. 뜨목치는 일세네. 이거살로 공수를 뜨목 자와는 왜 봐. 삼무살 토부살 생선들이 남년 팀에 봐. 들이 뜨목 자와는 매가 착해 거래 때려. 너나 이 시대 뉴모 봤습니다. 씨네. 뉴모 강속전에 때렸으니 다 공자도 그랬어요. 때렸으니 세곰 뉴모보다 20년도 세. 맨날 나도 시당 쳐보나 딱바로 시당 곰들이 공자 딱바로 시당 공자 시당 공자 근데 doktor 시당 따는 봐요 그래. 만도 차기도 딱바로 도차주 공자 도차주 공자는 doktor 도차 매완도 그래. 뉴모 곰념도 세곰들 다 되지.
For example, Lilapa took desire as the path, the lower caste Ananga took anger as the path, the Siddha Lawapa took ignorance as the path, and the player of children's game took playing as the path. So there is those who take, for example, anger as the path. That is when that means that whenever anger arises, then they just meditate on it and liberate that. It is like the example of someone who has no hands and no legs, and someone else is kind of annoying that person. But since he has no hands and no legs, he cannot retaliate. He just, gets angry, but has to, kind of deal with his anger and cannot, do anything with it. So likewise, whenever we get angry, so there is, or when you take anger as the path, so that you just you meditate, you bring in the meditation, you bring in the view, and that and so that the this anger is liberated. And likewise, so it says the Lilapa took desire as the path, and so those who take desires as the path, those that means that whenever desire arises, then so they bring the meditation there, so that there's no attachment that comes in, no kind of ordinary desire full of attachment, but it's liberated. And so it talks also those who take ignorance as the path. So that is, for example, this master who kind of sleep almost all the time, and actualizing the clear light of the dream, or the clear light of deep sleep, as we mentioned yesterday, and so practicing in this way. And so basically, those when practicing is in this way, we bring together the destructive emotion, for example, desire or anger or ignorance, together with the wisdom. So that is the mixing together of the destructive emotion and the wisdom, mixing together the destructive emotion and the wisdom. And so if we're someone who's kind of prone to anger, for example, we have a lot of anger arising, quite often. So each time anger arises, then we just meditate, we bring in the meditation, and that liberates, so that at some point, there won't be even any anger arising.
어떻게 이거는 제목대로 검점 제목세는 너무 제목서 안 돼봐야 뭐 틀린 거예요. 람도 세바다서 람도 세바 람도 세바지 유몽 람도 세바 제목 세바 집에 제목이지 집에 제목이요.
That's playing as the path. So it says in the text also that people really like to play, like, music and things like that, dancing, and they could take that as the path also, take playing as the path, and really each time, playing, bring in the meditation, so that at some point then the playing then lose its power. That means, like the attachment we can have for it, or the grasping at it, then be liberated.
대체 차당 가독 당 대체 차당 가독 당 로버는 남도 말이 봐서 책다 로버는 남도 다다다 공부시 봐대 참 제래 강인나서 인양 냠니 차저지 내 메나 생성 오준 남도 지지 잠체적 코를 내서 봐야 매서 오중 시대다 납차르와 근데 시작 차바를 공니 다 군지 고사 정의 군지 남시게 조캄 남도라 벤도 캄 차랍자 차라 남도 지지 샤로 지미도 좀 안에 매는 꾸여지나 다서대 신의 도움이 신의 도움이와 등하나 셉사자 도마도나 대 꾸여지 세상에 받대 되게 좀이 감수 집에 저래서 꾸여 남시지는 진이 초초초들이 남시 초초 요한자마를 연구요래 되게 조감시 된 남도라고 아니 뭐라고 근데 감 집에 견도는 감슴했더니 고사대 곰 내도 막 손에 감슴 고사대다고 요래서
군시
대단히 이게 니낭들이 군지되나 개밤에 와 몸유는 못 같이 잡나더니 윤통통 맞도 공유는 못 잡선 빼대도 같이 손을 하마고 와 그 군지 그게 남시되는 곰 요바라더니 나또 충충 다 차와 다리 원저지가 돼 맞춰와 돼 그게 남시 그게 남시들 요 참 든 남도랑 변도 감지 대당 저 강고사지 니 샴리 니 조사는 송을 공대 맹다전에 초래 이거만 니를 줘봐디 감성용 로고 공고 샴리 그랬단도 근데 그 이제 보면 내맹고 배차는 데서 맹거렸다 때라게 그래.
At that point, whether attachment or aversion, happiness or sorrow, says the root text. And so in all situation, basically, we should bring in the practice. So it says, if your practice lacks the key point of liberation upon arising, whatever subtle thoughts creep unnoticed into your mind will accumulate them all, and they will accumulate more samsaric karma. So that we've explained. So this is the explanation we've just given. So we don't need to say that again. And then it says, going astray in the all-ground leads to the formless realm. Going astray in the all-ground consciousness leads to the form realm. And coarser types of thought leads to the desire realm. So Rinpoche says we shouldn't, worry too much about form realm, formless realm, desire realm, and so on. There's just the name that I given, just a little bit technical to explain a little bit what's coming after. But the main point is what's coming after in the text. But just to explain a little bit the all ground. So the all ground leads to the formless realm. All ground is when meditating that there is no mindfulness. That is when you're practicing and you're not aware for how long you've been practicing. Like if it's, for 1 minute or 1 hour, there's not this kind of awareness. There's no awareness, a kind of a blank state. That is the all ground. The all ground consciousness, it says, so leads to the form realm. The all ground consciousness is those very subtle thoughts. So when you meditate, there's all those subtle thoughts that arise and unnoticed. So this is the all-ground consciousness. And when so then there's also the coarser types of thought that we know, and that leads to the desire realm.
생군 내록 마도 받고 용조 삼은 꾸기 남시리 생군 내록 또는 20년 정도고요. 생군 내록 마도는 남시리 뒤담기지 가리요래도 다 검정이 지나 무정미 남도 예절지 덜능진 속고요. 무슨 맛이 이가 죽는 속거래 듣군지 남시 들이 대라비는 무서 샘트마 싸워 볼까니 뒷남도 당시 양은 양으로 다 들어. 정말 매와 연구요래. 제바사 오면 들은 정말 충소리, 정말 충소 깨요래. 이들 들리면 와지요. 배는 생모 소마 때나 생동성의 것을 직장만도 섭도 안 배 남도 망도 오래 배는 강반당되는 님을 메나 강양만도 동발해야지. 님은 세력 지금 덕차라고 발삼배가 강대요래. 그래서 강문은 님을 오나 니들 메나 강문은 강문도와 동발와. 근데 님아지 늘 보고는 님아지 지니 덕차라고 삼아 하고 봐. 통고를 먹게. 어때는 이 곰점은 또 망도 오는데. 같이 곰점은 또 망도 오는데 뭐 통화로 봐. 다 통을 꾸지 남시지 배 차랍당은 이들이는 비고래 대 꾸지 남시 당고서 탐마바 참아 꾸지 남시다.
So the all-ground consciousness is when not recognizing the nature of mind. When we do not recognize, there's not this recognition of the nature of mind, then that is the all-ground consciousness. When then when there is this recognition of the nature of mind, so that this is wisdom. But otherwise, we have this all-ground consciousness, and this all-ground consciousness is it's always it's full of thoughts. All those thoughts that arise, often very subtle, that just arise and which we grasp. It can be they can be very subtle, but there's this constant movement of thoughts that arise, subtle thoughts that arise at which we grasp. It's constant movement of grasping. So for us, we're not aware of it. That is in the background there, and so this is the all-ground consciousness. The example that is given is of if you have particles, like a fine particle of dust, you wouldn't see them normally. But then the moment the light, if the sun rays enter the room in a particular way, then you'll be able to see all those, particles that are floating. And this is what happens when we're meditating. Sometimes when we start practicing, well, we think we have much more, thoughts than usually. But the thing is, it's like when the light enters in. When the rays of light don't enter that particular way, then we feel that there's no particle of dust, flying. We can't see any. But then when the light comes in, then we can see all of them. And so it's the same. All of us, ordinary people, have the all-ground consciousness. We have constantly also all those little thoughts that arise, all this, kind of subtle grasping that come in. And so, but then when we start practicing, that we become more aware of them. And so that's why we feel that we have more thoughts. But it's not that we have actually more thoughts. It's just that we are more aware of those subtle thoughts that come in the mind. And that if we're able to, through the practice, to kind of eliminate them or purify them, then they will start to decrease and be eliminated. So this is the all-ground consciousness.
The namshi, the yakung the way, namshi, tama yakung the way, shin name lapanam the tong, namshi, namshi, the wisdom.
So all of you who, all the people who are clear about what the all-ground is, who are able to recognize the all-ground consciousness, who are clear about what it is and able to recognize the all-ground consciousness, can you raise your hand, please?
Okay. 남시 뒤에 무엇이 송했더니 대시적으로 남시 초기 남시가 서로 열진 남바답시 봐대 서로는 니, 씀, 이, 초왕, 서로는 남자치바, 나는 이, 누신 두지, 이, 촉제. 남시지, 샘 찍을더니 남시지 촉제를 놓으러. 서로도 공시바 아주, 조, 로르자, 대시유로, 오, 자는 동나, 힘보도 힘들어. 힘보도 깨는 남시지. 이제 선바지 그래도 남시 초제대. 그니 생분내로 통송나 남시 초제 선바제는 저로 그래. 남시 요제 선바제는 저로. 산은 저로. 산조선 남시 초제 선바제. 남시 요제 선바제는 저로 그래. 생분내로 통산은 저로 그래. 내 롱마 통했더니 코가 저러래. 다 사는 저들이 되게 좋아해. 맹일마다 되게 맹다는 요다 망보여래. 오, 생분내로 통통으로 참아 사는 저도요래. 생분내로 마동을 하면 제일 저도요다.
So we're recognizing the all-ground consciousness is important because then be able to transform it into the wisdom. So consciousness. So this consciousness takes expresses itself in the through the consciousness of outer objects. So there are 5, it says, collections or categories of consciousness turns towards the outer objects in connection with each of the sense faculties. And then there's also inside, so the consciousness of then there's also the awareness of the perception and that kind of recognitions of the object that takes place, and then there's this obscured consciousness within. So basically there are 8 consciousnesses, which is said, going into the detail of each, just bring more, just make it a little bit more difficult. But there are the consciousness, so expresses itself in so in those 8 ways, or those 8 collections of consciousnesses. And so, for example, with the outer objects, we're able to recognize the physical forms, or the sounds, or taste, odors, and so on. And so the taste, for example, when you drink tea, if you drink tea as Rinpoche demonstrated, then so you can this is very good tea, and really appreciate that. Or you drink it and realize it's terrible beverage you've been given. And so that is the so-called tongue consciousness, this awareness of this consciousness that knows taste. But then all those different consciousness then are these 8 consciousnesses when recognized actually the wisdom, the primordial wisdom. And so if we do not recognize them, then there is attachment that creeps in. We start to have grasping and attachment towards these objects that are, or this that the consciousness is aware of, and we fall into samsara. If, on the other hand, we recognize those objects and turn towards the wisdom, recognizing basically the nature of mind, then we're liberated. So, as Rinpoche said again, we don't need to necessarily go into all the detail of each of the different types of, consciousness and so on. For us to know that whenever, consciousness is aware of an object, if we recognize the nature of mind, then we're liberated. If we do not recognize the nature of mind and recognizing those perceptions of the consciousness, what the consciousness is perceived as the expression of mind, then we start to generate destructive emotions and fall into the samsara.
Tata kongni dokam zokam zumi samna korsa songde te rechishira jamugo tongkang de rikpa rangtolo ne songna de kamsung gongwale kamsung korsa yo mares kamsung korsa me jo kang dina rikjang man chowen do kamje semle dorje rikpa rangchila ngala ne dina 탁진 통되는 dina 네 심지 열은 좋고요 말이야. 별로 매도는 통되는 매도는 통되 매도도 철심을 할 때는 조금은 매도는 발 매도 가린들 발 좋고요. 이렇게 하면 좋아요. 또 감자sem이 좋지.
So in the text, it was mention of the desire ram, the form ram, the formless ram. So again, we don't need to go into the details of each of them and try to explain them. For you to know, they are when we talk about the 3 rams of existence. So those are those 3 ram, the desire ram, form ram, formless ram, and basically it says that if you abide by the recognition of Rigpa, then you won't fall into any of the pitfall of any of those 3 rams. You won't be reborn in the fall into the pitfall of the desire ram, the form ram, or the formless ram, which are the three realms that constitute the samsara. And so that is because when we stay we abide by the recognition of Rigpa, then we don't go after objects. For example, the flower in front of Rinpoche. So when we see the flower, then we kind of go out towards the flower, you know. But then when you abide by the recognition of Rigpa, there's no going out towards the flower. There's just a inward kind of awareness of the flower. And so we're just aware of the flowers, but of the flower. There's just this awareness of the flower, but there's no going out towards the flower.
Sarjang menzibe zokam ji semle zhos semsao ranjing sartong songjok ne de sawo tin zba be ba semsao sawo ranji de zba yo ma le tin zba mi ba de ke zokam ji semle zhos sarjang menzibe zokam ji semle zhos.
So that's why it says when there is the awareness, we do not follow after every object, and so therefore we are liberated from the mind of the desire ram. When there is clarity and no clinging, we are liberated from the mind of the form ram. So when there is this clarity, just this awareness and no clinging, so we're liberated from the mind of the form ram.
Mato jang redeng yurnang manga pe zumi je semle towe kamson longro je gongpa shiba tars mato jang gangyang zito ye mare rikpa saro te meidro je yor mare saptong sujo rikpa te sanami te timbo yore rikpa dangdi nga ro je mewa teke redeng yubu manga pe zumi je kame chorso ten kamsong yong zho ge rikpa rang to le ni na kamsong gui zhong de yo ma le si.
So in this, it is non-conceptual. When we rest, so you abide in the Rigpa, it is not conceptual. Yet with confidence in Rigpa, apparent phenomena are unobstructed. So we are liberated from the mind of the formless realm. So when we remain in the state of Rigpa, it is a non-conceptual, but it's not like a kind of blank state, you know, of just absence of thoughts, but it's just it is the Rigpa. There is this clarity whereby all phenomena arise, all those phenomena which are the dynamic energy or the display of Rigpa manifest without any obstruction. So in that state, which is without thought, but where all the phenomena manifest as the self-radiance of Rigpa, then there is we are liberated from the mind of the formless realm. So this is a realization that is liberated completely from the three realms. So this basically what it says is that what it shows is when we're staying in the state of Rigpa, when we abide by the recognition of Rigpa, then we are free from all the faults related to the three realms.
비나 남도 기바 탐지 오전 천잠스 마송벌 루제 저디 마이 바스 라마 뉴머티 바타 마자르 강네서 그러나 오전 천잠스 마송어지나 전바 싸워매 봐 남도 총총들이 공시에 차에 당부 틀리지마 오 간초소사 이거 하고 때 오전 천잠什么说话？你这就这么一个子，哦，当个印度上的这八种独自就的你别身体，我们这里样子把结果，你这就这样子，哦，英明是多把子样子人子把子用过用的，这样够用嘛的，这是路过，你这就这么一个，然后用没这把到嘛这把子。생 라마블 야는 생코는 라우랑 서티 대거리 된 진고 말이 나 임고 선은 잡아지고 말이 라마 용을 뒤바다 마다는 강에 남또 제샤 무엇이 바르세라 남또 강사들 하고 손들 그래 참 무엇이 손들 강제고 말이에요.
So the root text says, all momentary thoughts, each and every one of them. So the commentary explains, therefore, whatever thoughts arise, you do not allow them to proliferate into a welter of subtle delusion, while at the same time you do not apply some narrow mind-made mindfulness. Instead, without ever separating from a natural, genuine mindfulness, recognize the true nature of whatever thoughts arise, and sustain this liberation upon arising that leaves no trace, like writing on the surface of water. So, says whatever thought arise, you do not allow them to proliferate into a welter of subtle delusion, into all sorts of delusion. That is, when we don't have mindfulness, in the absence of mindfulness, then all sort of thoughts arise. So what we do is that that is just when we are not aware. But then we need to. What happens is that sometimes, so when we are practicing, we kind of lack awareness, and all the sort of thoughts kind of arise. But then after that, we're aware of it. We kind of, I've been caught in all those thoughts, and so we bring back the awareness. And so that's what it says. So do not allow all the thoughts to proliferate, and just bringing the awareness and the mindfulness so that they do not proliferate. It says, while at the same time, so on the one hand, so we don't allow all those thoughts to proliferate, applying mindfulness, while at the same time you do not apply some narrow-minded made mindfulness. So it is the way that sometimes when we meditate, there's some kind of grasping involved. We're kind of tight, in our meditation. It's like, I'm meditating. I shouldn't let, all those thoughts arise and have a kind of holding a little bit too tightly to our meditation and so this also shouldn't be the case. It's just very relaxed. To just leave the mind, as it is. That is, when we leave the mind in its natural state, just leaving the mind as it is. So there is no grasping involved. Just to let the mind in its natural state. We don't need to grasp at anything. There's no grasping there. Just leaving the mind. So that is the practice in which we just recognize whatever thought or namtok arises, but we don't do anything about it. Just recognizing, just resting in that recognition. Without then, once we've recognized them, we don't start to do anything with them. Just living as it is.
백강리 철을 못 받아라. 샘디 초 장소 침보다 위나 철이 못 다다 용고요래. 다다 용나 다다 요 말이. 남상 미도거리. 디스는들이 공리 쉬어야 돼. 있는 양대 양당양대 쇼급을 좀 쓰니까리. Same not tota yum Gangina, the Jiwatan Yaratin, Songurity, later book of Kale, Yagari, Lanta made the old Maritanian Yongri. Kale means on it, Jima, Muni and Zimbabwe, Yongri. Pero Katang Mizzle control Lana. Control the Jima, Mizzle, control the Zimbabwe, China, they draw that area. That Lamsang made was some children motivate, there's a later book with a couple of red. Kale made the dog red. Gila. Kale made the dog. Kale, dinner.
So
the washing Jimmy made there. Or not all washing. Jimmy made the seminar. Seminary Tramamiva. Take watch.
So instead, without ever separating from a natural, genuine mindfulness, recognize the true nature of whatever thoughts arise and sustain this liberation upon arising that leaves no trace, like writing on the surface of water. So the example that's given is of writing on the surface of water. There's, when at the moment you write, then that very moment the writing disappears, when you write on water. So that's the same. Whatever thought or emotion arise, then the moment they arise, that moment they liberated, they do not leave any trace. They just arise and are liberated immediately without leaving any trace in the mind. Now, for beginner, that might be a little bit too much to expect. That whatever thought, whatever emotion arises, then we're able to just liberate it readily. That requires a little bit of training. That's why we need to practice. But then, with the experience, then we'll be able to do that. And, for example, when we, if someone really makes us angry, but then after that we realize that we've been angry, and then we just liberate that. Then the next time we see that person, there's no anger whatsoever. Well, that's a sign that the liberation took place, So, again, for beginners, that might be a bit, too much to just liberate absolutely any thought, any emotion that arises immediately. But then if we apply ourselves through practice, then we'll be able to slowly develop our ability and be able to liberate, all thoughts and emotions that arise.
Ngoshi zar zo rangzhor de dong so dan di na le tangbo padang kong chik til je de han de ne shi ja ko ma kong chik de je de shi jang de le tangbo padang de ba ma tho ba ni ge ngô ma xin là hoàn toàn rõ chứ, sao rõ mà chỗ này chính xác không phải thế, ngô ma xin là hoàn toàn rõ chứ, ngô ma xin chung chế suy đến cái đấy, cái này thì chỉ mà nó đó, ta còn nhiều cái gì sai rồi, chế xong rồi thì chỉ mà nó đó ngô xin là rõ mà sao ba, thế hoàn toàn cái chuyện, zar zo ma zhō na si jīng zhā guā ma tōp sōng. Tān dē lē tāmbō pāl kī chīn bō rē dī. Zar zō bē na mē jīng rā kō shō rā na, kō shō rā ma tā, kō shō dī yā bō ma rē sōng tā kā chō kō yō ma rē. Kō shō yā lāng, kō shō yā lō ngō shī bī ngā nī tī nī jīng shī gāng nī kō shō kā chē rā lāng jī zar zō dī. Tī nī 자조 자디 드니 디드나 검잡들아 드니 코랑이 그드니 버싱들 매 갈레체 갈레체 타마 책 도그리 갈레체 거래서 란도도 마다는 디지털에서 용탈 도거래스 근데 그게 뭐래 뭐 마시나 원절은 줘 자도 마좀 시키는 좀 보면 책 란도도 마다는 디지털에서 난도 너무 찌양 거래스 된 모양식으로 뭐 싫고 자도 배는 특미의 사당 산속집에 산이 람성되고 참자고 요래 저같이 뭐 공자니 그 니모보다 야 라야 끼고 롱니 드리고 세고 요래 다 뒤쳐 버려라
So it says, upon recognition, leave not a trace behind. So the root text says, and so leave not a trace behind. That means that there's no grasping whatsoever. Then it says, if at this point the arising thoughts are not purified, dissolving as they liberate themselves, the mere recognition of thoughts on its own will not be able to cut the chain of the karma that perpetuates delusion. So it says we need to recognize, perfect the strength, release in self-liberation. If beginners and those who have not yet gained stability in the practice do not recognize thoughts, they will become undercurrent thoughts. Unless we perfect the strength, later on we will not be able to cope in extreme circumstances and situations. And unless we release thoughts and emotions in self-liberation, we will accumulate karma. So it is explained for beginners when we are practicing. So we need to develop our capacity to liberate thoughts. And what we need to apply the recognition. We need to perfect the strength and release in self-liberation. Now, the recognition of the nature of mind, that is the biggest problem. If when thought arise, when namtok arise, when the thought arise, we do not recognize, then they become bigger and bigger, and when they're really big and strong kind of emotions, thoughts, then we can't do anything about it. We can't liberate them anymore. So it is important to recognize as soon as we can those thoughts, those risings. And so then beginners also, we need to develop our strength, perfect the strength. And then the approach in the Dzogchen is perfecting the strength. That means that when a destructive emotion arises, for example, when anger arises, then we do not say, "Oh, this is not good. I shouldn't have anger." Instead, we let the anger arise, and that it arises, recognizing we liberate it. So that is the instruction or the approach of the Dzogchen, and we develop also our capacity, our ability to do this. That is, when it is like in the example of the fire, when the fire is still So when you have a piece of wood, then the fire will progressively burn the piece of wood, so that in the end, the entire piece of wood is completely burnt. And so it is the same also. We develop that kind of ability so that when anger arises, we don't suppress it, just let it arise, and then kind of eliminate it or kill it in the anger itself, recognizing the anger. So that is why we need also the self-liberation of the recognition. This, when recognizing the anger, so when the anger arises, then recognizing it, then it is liberated. So that is the way that we train and developing our ability in this way. The approach of the Hinayana, for example, and the Mahayana are more kind of progressive. We kind of progressively train ourselves to avoid anger or to develop the loving kindness. But there in the Dzogchen, it's much more direct. It is, we just for example, if anger arises, just let the anger arise, and as it arises, we just kill it. We just liberate it.
Kumchi chenpo ngame shiba same kyin se te tsortan ni nyungma ten tongshi jenga zhang de topar chong de ba nimi zongzong zenpa gomba chosan tante kumchi chenpo song ka xe na o senkwen nelo yu zamshin tong ni这样的样家庭我中等建立的了哦，当然用我通是我们云那多让这都没当那，这个公园你把起来这个嘛来说，见个长得多不出哦，为他公西松讲，他那个公拉松，哦，啥个样公用个，那个公拉松。这里接着这里公规，这里你把那个嘛来着，我们的军械没把装嘛，怎么？差不多了，我们常常的装，这里我们讲呢，常常的什么时候我用，常常什么时候啊？这里注意要不嘛紧呢？这里我们养大过，我们把那头就嘛来说，健康长得多。他都集中上搞上，等拿了说真那么多个，碰到是吧？到那地方就日不讨论那点种植的用个么的，可是他搞人呢，像这种用个人，这里忙不了呢。这种结果嘛是讨论下的，这里种个要用么的，我不讨论那点这种刚要用么的，这他们就日不讨论马内被种，日不讨论马内被种，现在可有的就。是讨论那种种他们节约嘛来的。
空气去不的，气什么？As the great omniscient one, that is Longchenpa said, the later moment of consciousness is aware of the earlier moment. So, and the original nature of feeling itself is seen. Keeping track of arising and ceasing will increase the proliferation of thoughts. Meditation that clings to the meaning of non-duality is deluded. So it says, when we practice and the later moment of consciousness is aware of the earlier moment, then that won't be a very stable practice. That won't be such a useful practice in order to liberate thoughts. That is, when we practice, we practice and then we get distracted and then, do something else. Oh, and then I need to come to the practice, and then kind of practice in that kind of discontinuous way. You need to really maintain the continuity of the practice to really remain stable in the view. If it's just, like for a minute or two, you kind of concentrated and then, you slip into something else and then remember, oh, I was distracted, come back like this. Then there won't be much stability in the practice. And so that is a sign that we don't put enough kind of energy into maintaining the energy or discipline in maintaining that view. And so for the practice to be really effective, then we need to maintain continuously the flow of the recognition. So this is important, because when in the recognition, so whatever arises, then we'll not be able to create any kind of any problems, or there's no fault or problem within the space of the nature of mind, within that recognition of the nature of mind.
ngamla jakpe namto jimi do tabali ne de chewe chorwe chuko nguzong las tata ye rponga ne de pakami namto shawe jise ye rpate madpa tiri je thole mayu ba nguzing ngadi je mata te ba ta so nandiji shiti yungzong aso, nandiji shita tadi madabara. Hago so. Rapu ngana nede bakam nato shayong, nato pata tadi pen melong ina, melong ul zungi ma ko shadina shati kanyang melong tama deyo re. Semna nato shati senti mamano yi tama deyo na, nandagi beya pores. Hago so. Kinzo yak.
So at the very same instant as you recognize, by seeing the true nature of the thought nakedly, you will simultaneously identify the wisdom with which you are familiar from before. And by resting in that state, thoughts are purified, dissolving so that they leave no trace, and that dissolution is a crucial point. So the moment that you recognize, then by seeing the true nature of the thought nakedly, then you, it says, you will simultaneously identify the wisdom with which you are familiar from before, together with the thought. And so that is like the example of the mirror. When something so reflects in a mirror, all sorts of things reflect in the mirror, then they're taken away from the mirror, and the mirror is not touched in any way by it hasn't been stained in any way by whatever was presented to it. And so similarly, when if we look in the recognition, if we look at the thought, whatever thought arises, look into its nature, and then recognize the wisdom that to which we've been introduced from before when we received the introduction, recognizing this wisdom, then it doesn't leave any trace. Those thoughts are liberated without leaving any trace.
Pena chola mota ta tipatar shegne tawata yawa tinyambara namto jipata trova tinyamda sona ransha ranro jinche me ba yembes o ransha ranro jinche me ba da namto chong tamje chola mono yi jasmati ransha ranro jinche me ba res haje ya bores
To take an example, writing or drawing on water, the very instant it is written, it dissolves. The writing and its disappearance are simultaneous. Likewise, as soon as thoughts arise, liberation is simultaneous, and so it becomes an unbroken flow of self-arising and self-liberating. So the example is given here is of again of writing on water, and so the moment it's drawn, that very moment it disappears. Whatever you write on the water, just the very instant it is drawn, that very instant it disappears. And so that's the same also. If we maintain that recognition, the moment a thought arises, then that very instant it is recognized for what it is and is liberated without leaving any trace, like a writing on the water.
dentro todo ci vanno seroso da se da bella chora mo yes trigger non to cancella dindimi ba bene se ba mi ba ta da시 남시 초 제시에 송 고 나가 시바게 고 나가 시발라들이 되는 좀 마시고요 먹을 속은 좀 봐 나와 작은 좀 봐 히자 많이는 좀 봐. 나를 저건지 봐, 점가 뭐 영건지 봐. 제 삼지 초고요, 촌나. 변나 자진 통나. 야, 약한 거 강 통는데. 힘모도 근데 힘모도 똑같이 송아제 저. 제 통나. 힘모도 어때 힘모도 때문에 이 봐도 초와 찍발해. 진시요나 심나야 동쪽을 뭐 염나는 동쪽을 진식이 윤지나 진심에나 저 공시요나 심배 동거리 심뭐 뭐좀 먹고 내 먹고 마음이 요거리 당아 터송지 저봐 식들은 저 심미가 동거리 저볼 피는 밤에나 가리는 동 단저봐 식 진진진매 저봐 맞으나 되고 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 되는 거래. 저봐 식 맞아. 추추 동영대 추추 되는 처럼나 신보도什么 검점나 신보도 선지 따한테 라서 신보면도 선으로 검점나 양 신보면도 선 롬네 되는 신미미가 다 동거래. 추추지 추추 조정이 동직발에 제 담제 제 동거를 졸아야 너는 생긴 친구요 말에 솔직한 친구요 말에 최초등 네 출발 맞았나 출발 맞은 처나 최초지 깨고 그래 맞지를 담는 거 빠지 그 담나더니 배 구조 잡아도 봐 나이 지금 대고 야 나서 빈사거나 나에 가서 이제 문제가 스핀 거요지 근데 매일 다 사탐매요 다 담대요라 킹지 도와든 청원 되는 등도 토도 집안을 세지 되는 뺄리 쳐라를 모이도 고 무고 강양 매나 다주 조선에 들이 다 쳐를 모는 주로 고난적 마고난적 제발매 나와를 자가 제발매 먹을 속 제발매 나를 저거 제발매 제로 제발매 사만냐만이 다 조선와 가르치는 강이매 지금 그냥 느끼 지 모를 거다.
So, if we don't have that kind of experience of self-arising and self-liberating, then we need to practice what's called destroying delusion, tulshik, or cutting through resistance, texture, or liberation, dolwa, or confidence directly in the liberation of rising thoughts. So those they mean the same thing. They refer to the same things. They're different names, but basically, trushik means so destroying delusion. That is, whatever thought, namtok arise, whatever rising there is, then we do not grasp at the object. Whatever arises, whatever manifests itself, we do not grasp at it. So whatever object that any of the 8 consciousnesses is aware of, we do not grasp at it. Whatever external object, there's those physical forms or sound, textures, odors, taste, and so on. All those, when we are, we do not grasp at them. For example, if you take a tea, so Rinpoche was demonstrating with the tea, and you drink the tea, and you think, this is good, and so that is, or you drink, and then you think, well, this is not good, but both are the same actually. Both, just namtok arising, and so if you look into their nature, you see that they are the same and they are liberated. So that is, whenever you bring the mindfulness and the awareness, then whether the good or not good doesn't make any difference. If we do not have that, then if we do not have if we do not bring in the mindfulness and the awareness, bring the recognition, then when drinking the tea, then if it's good, then we want some more, and if it's not good, we don't want it. We just leave it, and we will not drink it. But then if we have that recognition, if we bring in the mindfulness and the awareness, then no matter whether it's good or bad, doesn't change. We can drink it, as long as it doesn't harm the body. We just drink it. It doesn't make any difference. So that is. So without this trulshik, this destruction of delusion, then we tend to grasp in this way. We just like what is good and dislike what is not good. But with that recognition, then no matter what it is, whether it is good or bad, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant, it doesn't make a difference. They are seen as the same. We just realize what they are. And the texture, so cutting through resistance, the texture. So it's the same as the trushik. That is, whenever when we think, oh, this is good, so we bring in the meditation, we bring in the view. When we think, well, this is not good, likewise we bring in the view, and so. And in this way also, so realize that there's no difference really between the two. The liberation dolwa is also necessary. We need to liberate, those thoughts, because when we don't do that, when we stay in a kind of ordinary, with our ordinary mind, and so it becomes quite tight, about things that we like and things that we don't like, and so that's why we need to bring this liberation and bring that treasure in order to realize, to destroy this this delusion, and in which there is this openness and this freedom. And so, when we have that, then with that choshik, destruction, or delusion, or texture, then there is we don't make any difference really between whether it is good or it is bad. It doesn't make any much difference for us, and so that is for all the physical visual forms that we may see, all the sound that we hear, all the taste, all the things that we eat, all these it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't. And we just recognize, look into the nature and recognize for what they are, just a nightok arising. And in this way, all these risings are are purified or dissolve. And so this is a very important point.
Pele cholar mo yi dina sharwa maga par cheshar charde chokla kanshar nyungme ngangda dakpar lamchir yi nyamni yi neden zingu pena rangshar rangror jinche mezi dina namto kago sambar longti ma chezi namto katse sharwa sharchok 샤와드 조르죠. 제는 배나 매당 버생 좀 봐요. 거기에 보여라. 매지는 버생 가세요. 매지 실을 놓으려래.平时 르바랑 속 매나. 드니 유몽배 남도 레서 그요래. 디스나平时요는 남도 막 네바 매스. 너도나.
And so, by not suppressing the risings, but allowing whatever arises to arise, any thoughts that do arise are actually purified into their own fundamental nature. You must hold to this method of integrating everything into the path as the essence of the practice. So, it means that whatever arises, we just let it arise. But so whatever arises, so may it arise, but also may it be liberated. So that is, whatever arises, we let it arise, but we also liberate all those thoughts. So it is, as in the example of the fire and the firewood. When you have a strong fire, no matter how much wood you put in it, it's going to be burnt. But then, if the fire is not so strong, then it might not work as well. And so it is the same also with if our mindfulness and awareness are weak, so we will not be able to liberate the destructive emotions, the risings that come, and instead we'll be accumulating karma. So that is a sign. So of the weakness of our mindfulness and our awareness, and we need to develop that then.
Deta nam to la rto ne chuku tsar jambe topa kan shar rpa tsar jong de char ses. Da rpa de yo no rpa de radi tizam bota res. Nam to pucheng to tabar tabare. Trasambodino tate 같이 깨토보다 짤던 거. 저거 짤도는 깨는 som지 깨고 요래. 생구를 거 짤도는 남도 같이 깨토보다 되는데 생구 짤종사데 르바가 짤종사데 남도래스. 대는 남도 같이 깨토는 들이다. 르바랑 짤 같이다. 다는 돈는 거 미즈보 지유는 가시 루보 짤장는 드니 나고 갈래 초조래 나고 갈래 꼬라니 잡으래 가서들이 야랑 투고요 말해 루보 짤장은 죽고는 것들이요나 생구 짤 대리장 좋으래 생구 짤장 것들이 산제도야 요라 생구 납짤장은 납도다 생구는 납도 가서 숙치고 이렇게 검정 초바자 선데 매발당서로 딱 짤장을 이렇게 제거 말해 생구 짤장 도착금, 시당금, 그냥 금지야. 따뜻이 따뜻하게 그러지.
By applying the exercise of Dhammakaya to your thoughts in this way, from the basis of Rigpa, whatever thoughts occur only serve to strengthen the Rigpa, and however gross the thoughts of the five poisons are, that much more vivid and sharp is the Rigpa in which they are liberated. So that is, the more we train, the more thoughts arise, and the more we liberate those thoughts. And so the sharper our Rigpa becomes. And so the example is of of the fire. The more wood you put in, then the bigger the fire is. Or of a very sharp knife. If you have a very good, very sharp knife, so it is believed that the more you cut, actually it gets even sharper. And so it is the same. The more you train, then the more your capacity develops. And so that is here training the mind. An example that is physical training also. You have people who can jump quite high, There's even people training themselves. They are able to do like 2 flips and then fall back on their 2 legs. Myself, I just have problem just to stand up from my seat. So it's just, by training yourself, you're able to do, things like that. And so likewise also, by training the mind, you'll be able to reach Buddhahood. So that is by the training. So that is whenever, thought arises, whenever, desire arises, whenever anger arises, just meditate, bring in the view. Whatever arrives, so be ready to fight, the thoughts. That means, bring in the view, bring in the practice, so that to deal with them, don't just let them there, but really make sure that you bring in the view, you bring in the meditation, and so as to really liberate all those and to develop the capacity of your view, of your Rigpa.
난 냅집하는 로 냅집아 동은 남도 깨담을 버리 기장 대체 조를 봐 상관을 되베나 지셔를 땅 집에 세스 대답을 잘 정말 다 가려 그러지나 땅은 유모가 같이 지는 가오여스 그래서 가지 바케 유몽거랑 이 시다나 동아도 듣기 장소인지 나 유몽 같이 지나 가오요 유몽 끼로지 꾸치꾸치지라 유몽거랑 이 시다나 동아도 듣기 장소인 유몽 끼로지 땅소 게자 유몽 끼야면도 다 유몽질 빼야 본다다 유몽도
And once you've trained your mind in this way, if you really train your mind in this way, develop the capacity of your Rigpa, then the more destructive emotion, the better, the happier you get. You just, I want more, just give me more. That is, if you have that kind of ability, you've developed the strength of your Rigpa. There's some great Kagyupa master said, there's a Kagyu saying that says once you know the nature of destructive emotions, then suffering becomes like an ocean of nectar. So that is just, you're just begging for more destructive emotions, for more risings when you have that kind of recognition. And Rinpoche said that for himself, the good thing is that he's old, and so when you're old, you don't have much, emotions, destructive emotions, and, they don't rise so much,
이샤르 동지 버세드나 르빠가 칼라 뉴모 바로 아트네 뉴모 보면 르빠 좋고도 고요르다
So another example is of the Rigpa is it says that the destructive emotions, the namtok, the thoughts are like the food of the Rigpa. And so if we don't have namtok, if we don't have risings, if we don't have destructive emotions, the Rigpa gets hungry.
Hungry. 남도 강제 탐지 르고 상탈정 강을 안달된 차로 제 Gadega Topa Landor me Parchangwe, Sharduni Towarchipe, Chuku Yolangle Madebe, Chichar, Jinju Chuku Jarpizarson. There can need the Gadega Topa, Gyotopa Pen Sakige, Sakige Pen Lamala. Magudang Simjin and Ninja La Soba, Sortiga Ninja, Saki Giatam, young, report on the Toronto, Ben the Simjin doing Ninja Chibo, the Jenny, Don Doubling the doing Chibo, the Karichi, some similar Zulami position, young Gom Jamati, doing it, Lamsang meat already. They gave it up by a Toronto, give it up by Newman body, young Toronto already. Tani lama la maguti ngoso jumi mu lama de garden chibo za chibo san me machi ngui de jumi mu de yang mu de ni je mi ri chak yang gob jam mu de mi ro yo re kang sing ne lok tong na lem ro yo re de megi ni to pa te tron ro sing bu ro je tho la lem ro je tho de Get Kangan Jertogamares.
Whatever thoughts may stir, they all arise from the all-penetrating true face of Rigpa itself as its own inner power. Whenever they occur, if you simply abide in this, without accepting or rejecting, whether it is virtuous or non-virtuous thoughts, then they are liberated at the very instant they arise, and they are never outside the flow of the Dharmakaya. So that's why the root text says, whatever stirs in the mind is the inner power of the Dharmakaya king. So that is whatever arises in the mind, whatever thoughts, so that is negative thoughts, but that can be also the tainted kind of virtues, positive thoughts like if you have like devotion for the master or compassion for sentient beings, then those also are liberated in the flow of the Dharmakaya. That is, for example, if you have this compassion for sentient beings, realizing realizing the suffering of sentient beings, seeing some beings suffering, realizing their suffering, then compassion arises. But then, if in the recognition, then if you recognize the nature of mind, in that recognition, those thoughts also of the suffering and so on are also liberated. And likewise, for example, the devotion for the master, thinking of the master and thinking, oh, he's been so kind to me, and so on. Those kind of thoughts also, when they arise within the space of the nature of mind, they are liberated. So all the thoughts that arise, whether virtuous or non-virtuous, are all liberated within the ground of the nature of mind of Rigpa. All those thoughts cannot change the Rigpa. Within the state of Rigpa, it stays. This state of Rigpa is totally unaltered.
Dorna Mungsu Sangto Tapona may be Chimona, the Karitam Lamsang Tidor, some manager over the Peseta with any not Totam Chichukula in general.
So whatever arises, is liberated within the Dharmakaya, is never outside the flow of the Dharmakaya. So that is as when you have a big fire, then in that fire, whatever you throw in the fire is going to be burned. And so, in the same way, so within the as we maintain this recognition of the nature of mind, then everything, all the thought that arise are liberated, and we maintain, or we never outside the flow of the Dhammakaya.
Jabu chuka jabu tsar song dila kwapi teng sapo yore ranga rikwa de jabu chimo tawre nyu mo bada tani noa rigo yo kham tawre te tamji nyu mo ba tong wang jaru na te tamji sama simji tam rang nang namto nyu mo ba tamji yishile jor tamna tani se noa rigo tamji sajere jor to yore 어때다가 잡고 침보고 되니 강왕길 왔다가 잡고 침보고 요 감도 왕길소나 그 요감때 잠시 잡고 뒤 떠버린 줄로 요래 빼대다가 되니 다산 낭을 빠게 럭바도 잡도 잡았다가 니모 봐 잠시 건방다가 당시 왕도 되네 니모 이실 저서 빼 되니 낭을 그 생왕도 되나 들이세 나와요 심지는 비토고 요래 심지 담제 감명 왕집도 보여야지.
So whatever stirs in the mind is the inner power of the Dhammakaya king. So the Dhammakaya here is called the king because it is incredibly powerful. It has that. And this is a very profound point here, that if we recognize this nature of mind, then all the thoughts that arise, all the destructive emotions, all the namtok, all the thoughts, all the risings can be transformed into primordial wisdom, and all sentient beings into Buddhas. And so that is, so it is extremely powerful. So that is the power of the Dhammakaya. And this is what the Dhammakaya can accomplish, and that is so the example of the king, because the king, when the king gains control of a certain region, land, so he has the power. He has power over that land, and so likewise also the energy of Rigpa, the Rigpa, the primordial wisdom of Rigpa has this capacity. And that is inwardly, so for oneself, it can tame our mind, purify our mind, tame our mind, and outwardly also for sentient beings has incredible impact and is incredibly beneficial for sentient beings.
Semdo marek chozok sem long nama som rumbar torte semdo marek chozok rpa ishi chugo long de takpe wasar junche me pe long song dilang yege mabo chinre ropo tembe ni samchi chin kangdong dina sem long nangwa som rumbar torte sem당, 롱당, 나와, 섬시. 니, 다당에서, 롱나, 이시가 롱, 윤불롱, 니, 이래. 생관내로 마도바갑라, 뉴모바데, 뉴모불롱, 뉴모불롱데, 레절롱데, 롱가, 따제, 생관 매체를 천조요래. 벨랑. 뉴무 바토고 강게 지스더니 남시든 장송나더니 레테사 들이 촌도가 되게 롱도 뉴무가 롱 샘그 매체 레제 롱 뉴무 바지 따지 제네 들이 레소나 들이 말했대 로아를 두라 참도 이었지 르바이도 돈에 당보 롱 돈에 이시게 롱라 이제네 생군내로 도서나 생 축을 이제는 롱 이시게 롱을 전도래 이저송잖아 그니 sin nawa tam chi la zaba me ba ta na dong zong na dong ta ta dong de la so ta zaba me be yong din cha ke yo le de na sim long nawa so ren ji zhuo de so de ni ba shi chu gu long de ta pe wa sa din chi me be long so de na nam to kang jo wa kang ji rang o tong pe na ji mi rang da a la la a so
Thoughts in the mind, the delusory perception of ignorance, are pure within the expanse of Dharmakaya, that is the wisdom of Rigpa. And so within that expanse of uninterrupted clear light, whatever thoughts stir and arise are by their very nature empty. So there is a little note here saying that thoughts, when it says thoughts in the mind, the delusory perception of ignorance, says that mind, wind energy, or lung, and appearances are liberated in stages. So this the just to explain that a little bit, that there is the in terms of wind energy or lung, there is the wisdom lung and the lung of destructive emotions. And so when the mind do not recognize its nature, then it is and so the mind rides then on the lung of destructive emotions. That is, the mind, the ordinary mind, then is like a person that is riding on a horse. The horse being this wind of destructive emotions turned to or karmic wind, and the ordinary mind so rides on that wind or that lung of destructive emotion. But when the mind, when we recognize the nature of mind, so then it's not the karmic wind or wind of destructive emotion, but this is the wisdom wind, turns into the wind, the lung of primordial wisdom, and so that is, and in that we are liberated, and so that is why. So when the mind is liberated, and so then through this recognition, so then the wind energy or the lung also, instead of the lung of destructive emotion, is liberated into the lung of primordial wisdom, and the appearances also are then liberated because there is no grasping at appearances. Whatever appearance arises, then there's no grasping at them.